Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and quite a few people have been asking me to comment on the Julian Assange situation. Basically, he's been arrested now after 7 years in the Ecuadorian embassy in London. Bit of a faux pas. A new president came to Ecuador a couple of years ago who wasn't as mad keen on him as the previous one. And then WikiLeaks made the big mistake of pointing out a few naughty things allegedly of the new president, and then there was all sorts of other things he was accused of as well. So basically he was arrested this week. The Swedish sexual assault case seems to have been dropped, so I suppose his arrest is for evading justice. I mean, that's the law he's broken in the UK, resisting arrest effectively. That being said, I heard that the alleged victim in Sweden is pushing for the case to be reopened. But he was also involved in making public top secret and classified information. Some of this information was definitely in the public interest, and so some see him as a hero. Jeremy Corbyn has called for him not to be extradited to the US on the basis that he revealed atrocities which the public needed to know about. Now, there are a few reasons why I think it was foolish to say this. The first is that it is a matter of law, not conscience. We have an extradition treaty with the US, and as long as he doesn't risk the death sentence, then it's purely a matter of whether or not the United States has enough evidence to reasonably put him on trial for crimes committed against their nation. They undoubtedly do, as do a number of other nations if they wanted to. We can't expect the Home Secretary to overrule judges just because we might approve of their criminality, which, by the way, I don't think we do, but more about that later. Because if we did that, then we risk the US doing the same with us, that they would refuse to extradite criminals who'd committed crimes against the UK who happened to flee to America. No. The second reason why it was foolish to ask for that is because he now comes under fire for supporting criminals. The Conservative government and tabloids are constantly working to show how Jeremy Corbyn would be a threat to national security. Something like this is a gift for them at a time when he should be pointing out to all and sundry how members of the Conservative government supported an illegal Brexit campaign and have still not been personally investigated. It's Jeremy Corbyn who is now going to be accused of having no respect for law. Bravo. Although the Daily Mail reserved its major condemnation for Diane Abbott, it has to be said, for supporting Julian Assange. Always makes more sense for the likes of the Daily Mail to attack Abbott over Corbyn because despite their huge disdain for the Labour leader, he is at least a white male. But the third reason, and this is why I would want him put on trial definitely, is because he's not a whistleblower supreme. Yes, he has helped to bring to the public's attention abusive acts which should never have taken place and which citizens of those countries, more importantly, would not approve of and indeed have not approved of. Yes, it's good that those things come to light so that those responsible for criminal behaviour are shown up in the public spotlight. Making information classified or top secret is supposed to protect your citizens, not withhold criminal behaviour from them. But he didn't release information in the public interest. He released it to embarrass certain political parties and to help others. The fact that some of it was in the public interest is neither here nor there for him personally. He was selective in what he released, not in terms of whether it was in the public interest or not, but whether it harmed his political opponents or helped his allies. For example, he was instrumental in the release of the Hillary Clinton emails. There was nothing in them at all, and it was timed to coincide with the greatest frenzy of presidential campaigning, and specifically with not enough time for the message to sink in that there was no criminal activity contained therein. You still see chants of lock her up even now, but not one of those people, when pushed, could tell you what crime it is she's accused of. He actively worked to get Donald Trump elected, and for that alone I'd want him arrested and tried. Donald Trump recently said that he doesn't know much about WikiLeaks really, yet he mentioned it a lot during his presidential campaign. Now, of course, that doesn't mean he's lying. He talked about a lot of things during his campaign that he doesn't know a lot about, but but he did say in 2016 that WikiLeaks was, quote, a treasure trove, and I love WikiLeaks. And he said it wherever he was campaigning. He said it a lot. Naturally, there are those who would see this as a free speech issue. That's why they support Assange. But the charges against him relate more to how he illegally obtained the information. It's really more hacking than the dissemination of it. Now, I am the last person that would want to shield people from criminal activity. even if they think they're doing it for the greater good. A society is only worth protecting if it holds itself to high standards. And those who fall below those standards need to be exposed. But whistleblowing of that sort is not politically partisan. If you point out wrongdoing, you point out wrongdoing. You don't think to yourself, oh, but this is going to hurt my political aims or not. You know, you should always point it out. And if that was the case, then I could understand the support for him. But it isn't in this case. It's not an issue of free speech because WikiLeaks don't just publish documents provided by whistleblowers, but selects depending on whether or not it suits their political aims. They also don't take a great deal of care over the veracity of these documents as well. So what about documents that are released that are untrue? Produced by someone with, say, an axe to grind. What if they are true, but there's nothing untoward? But the revealed information puts people's lives in danger. What if it's true, but they've only put in some documents, whereas other documents would give you a fuller picture and you come to a different conclusion? Remember, there are valid reasons to have classified and secret information. Where covert operations exist, they are mostly intended to protect citizens. So what if governments find it harder to carry out those operations for fear of exposure? You've now made life more hazardous for citizens because the security forces either can't or won't put themselves in undue risk. So no, for me, the answer to making sure government or their agents obey the law is not to have unaccountable individuals acting as judge, jury and executioner, but to make sure that the police are policed, so to speak. You know, for people to demand that there is an independent oversight, all accountable and with the expertise to carry out their role without jumping to false conclusions, endangering people's lives, or using the information to push a political agenda. Make sure that they only consist of people who have no conflicts of interest. That is what watchdogs exist for, and that is what people should demand. Julian Assange is effectively a vigilante, and as with all vigilantes, does harm as well as good, and often more so. And in this particular case, I don't even believe he had good intentions. He saw it as a way of controlling politics whilst being lauded by the public as well. In that sense, he's no better than the scummiest British tabloid. And it's a shame we can't extradite those either.